Alrighty, what is quacking, everybody? This is Yump Quacks, where I talk about games and I talk about stuff because I like games. I like stuff. So, a couple days ago, as of currently recording this, we got the Nintendo Direct and they released Donkey Kong. They released a remaster of Donkey Kong Country's Returns, which came out on the Wii in 2010, and then it came out in 2013 on the 3DS. And at first, when they showed Donkey Kong, I was like, yes, mess my script up, give me a new 2D Donkey Kong, show me something new. And they didn't mess up my script in the slightest at all. They just gave us a remake of a remake, basically. And I didn't know this, but turns out the 3DS version, I believe they said it in the direct, the 3DS version had more levels than the Wii version. So now this Switch version is going to have those extra 3DS levels in them, unless it was like some 3DS exclusive levels compared to the Wii levels. I wasn't really paying too much attention to that part because I was watching it at work. So it'd be like that sometimes. So I kind of miss some things. But from my understanding, that's what it was like. So we're just getting a remaster of a remaster, basically, or just like, a port of the 3DS, stuff like that. And I was like, oh, they're going to mess up my Donkey Kong script. Well, they didn't. I still have 2 pages, over 1,000 words here in front of me that, we need more Donkey Kong. Like, just because we're getting this, remaster from the 3DS and the Wii does not mean we do not need more Donkey Kong. We absolutely need fresh Donkey Kong, like an actual Donkey Kong game, like a new 2D experience or a new 3D experience, because he's only had one 3D adventure. He's only had one. I think Kirby's also had one 3D adventure as well, but that's another topic. So we've only had one 3D adventure from Donkey Kong back on the 64, mind you. It hasn't been anywhere else besides the 64. So Donkey Kong, as one of Nintendo's biggest mascots, is like was basically Mario's rival in, the early like 90s-ish, 80s, 90s-ish, where, on the SNES you had the Donkey Kong Country games made by Rare, and those games were absolutely amazing. I still love those games to this day. They're fantastic. They're just smooth, buttery platformers, and they literally rivaled Super Mario World. Honestly, as much as I love Super Mario World, if you held up Donkey Kong Country 2 to me and Super Mario World and said pick one or you get stabbed in the face, I'm getting stabbed in the face because I don't know what one to pick. They're just both that great in my opinion. So these games, like Donkey Kong was rivaling Mario at some point in the 2D platformer. In the 3D though, on the N64, I believe that's where Donkey Kong just started to falter. Like, because Rare also made the 3D version, but it was more like Banjo-Kazooie than, just like a proper like way to have Donkey Kong in a 3D environment. And, Donkey Kong 64 is kind of mixed. It's kind of mixed, but it's alright. But it definitely wasn't, what Donkey Kong needed to be. And since then, Donkey Kong has had no love and fewer games. The only like consistency that we get from Donkey Kong is the Mario and Donkey Kong series, and we just recently got one on the Switch. But we just keep getting, Mario versus Donkey Kong kind of consistently compared to other 2D Mario games throughout these past couple of years, throughout like the last decade, basically. And we haven't really like seen anything innovative or new. So, Donkey Kong started back as an arcade game in 81, and it didn't get its first console release until the Atari 2600 in 1983. So that's where we got the Donkey Kong arcade, type games on the Atari 2600. And we had Donkey Kong Jr., and you just kind of played through some levels, and I believe you were rescuing Pauline. And there's like a theory that the Mario in that game, that's like where Mario's first appearance was, but there's like a theory that that's not really Mario, it's Mario's dad. He saved Pauline and, then he popped out Mario, but that's just a theory. And, I played those games. Those games are very fun. I enjoyed playing them on the 2600 and on the NES, playing Donkey Kong Jr. Donkey Kong Jr. was definitely a step up from the original Donkey Kong with the platforming and swinging through using the vines and trying to like be precise with your movement. And then on the SNES, after, all the arcade games, Donkey Kong Jr. and stuff like that, on the SNES, we had Rare that, like, absolutely blessed these games and made these games, like, rival Mario. So you had all 3 Donkey Kong Country games, 2, in my opinion, was honestly the best one. 3 definitely didn't hit as hard as the other ones, but these were still like fantastic games. And then obviously Rare made Donkey Kong N64, and then they were bought out by Microsoft in 2002. So then Retro Studios and some other studios were helping make Donkey Kong. And then we got Donkey Konga and Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, which was real, I think was just really good in general because they were unique and weird. They were, wacky like Nintendo likes to be with, the bongos. So these games are fun because they were like, you had like a bongo set, so you had to get an extra peripheral for the GameCube, and you just play on the bongos to like do movement and do actions in the game. I personally played Donkey Kong Jungle Beat the most. Such a fantastic game. It was so fun and wacky, and it was like unique too because like the enemies, the bosses, it wasn't K. Rool, it was like evil Kongs, and you had to take them down. So it was nice, really annoying because you had to clap to like do some actions too. So my parents would get really upset at me when I would play it during summer vacation, and I would just, bang on the bongos and clap my hands, and they'd be like, "Can you please stop and go to bed? It's like 3 a.m." So, those games were great. It was very nice. It was kind of refreshing, but also I think because of the gimmick, that's where it started to lock Donkey Kong out for people, where it's just like, this is just a gimmick for Donkey Kong. And Donkey Kong kind of looked like a very obscure thing on the GameCube. It was just like, oh, well, here's Donkey Kong, but you need bongos to play. So it was whatever. And then after the Donkey Konga and Donkey Kong Jungle Beat games, around the same time is when we got Mario vs. Donkey Kong on the Game Boy. And, it would be on like portable systems. So you got Game Boy Advance, the DS, 3DS, and now on the Switch. I believe this year we got one. And then after that, we would finally get 2D Donkey Kong back. We finally would get like a fresh, brand new 2D experience since the Super NES days in 2012, and not 2012, 2010 with Donkey Kong Country Returns, and then it would be put on the 3DS in 2013. And at this point, it really just kind of did feel like Donkey Kong was kind of just like another 2D game. It was like, all right, this is just, it's just there. Like, it just felt like a very themed 2D game that Nintendo made. It still had like some Nintendo love and stuff like that, but it definitely didn't feel like it got the passion that Mario games did. And it definitely felt like Mario was just still going to be a step above it, because for Mario, everything kind of felt unique. You can go through levels with fire flowers. And since it was like 2010, we had Mario for the Wii. So we had the spinny thing, the spinny hat or whatever, the propeller hat. And then if you like, later we also like got, the Cat Mario suit with 3D Land and stuff like that. So like Mario had all these different abilities. So when Mario has all these different abilities and different ways that people are playing the level using different power-ups and stuff, Donkey Kong does not have power-ups. There's no power-ups. It's just you and, Diddy Kong. So it's Donkey Kong, Diddy Kong, or, it was Diddy and Dixie Kong, stuff like that. No power-ups. Occasionally, depending on the level, you'd get to ride, a rhino, an ostrich, a frog, a swordfish. So you get to ride different animals and do like kind of cool things to go through the level. But like, that felt more like a gimmick than an actual like, oh, this is like, oh, if I use like this power up for this level, then the level is going to be a little bit different because I can do different things with said power up. Now, this still doesn't take away from like some of Donkey Kong's uniqueness for their levels. Like we had like the minecart levels, which like you're in a minecart and you have to jump with the minecart. But even then, after a while, that gets a little, samey to a degree. So Donkey Kong still had some uniqueness, but like it definitely was not on that level of like a 2D Mario, and definitely 3D Mario has been absolutely amazing compared to the one 3D experience that Donkey Kong has had. So it's kind of like, all right, like again, it's kind of the samey thing. Like when I played Donkey Kong Country's Return on my 3DS, I was like, I might as well just play. Like, I felt like I just wanted to play Mario. Like, I was like, I'd rather just play Mario. Like, I don't feel like playing Donkey Kong. It just, like, felt kind of bland. And, like, there wasn't too much. Like, the novelty was wearing off. And I would either rather play older Donkey Kong games or just play newer Mario. But then after Donkey Kong Country Returns, we also had, you know, on the Wii U, then we got another 2D Donkey Kong experience with Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, which was a little bit better. It was a little bit nice, but you know, it suffered from the Wii U didn't sell well issue. So on the Wii U didn't sell well, and then on the Wii U it only sold 2 million copies compared to Super Mario Bros. U that sold 23 million copies. So yeah, that's no Donkey Kong. So like that definitely probably made Nintendo go, oh, Donkey Kong only sold 2 million. Let's not do that again. But also it just like kind of shows how like people just don't really care for Donkey Kong these days. I think nowadays, you know, maybe Donkey Kong's probably getting back up there in popularity, especially with something like the Mario movie, but I'll get into that in a little bit more. But, you know, having Donkey Kong sell 2 million on the Wii U definitely wasn't good. And then when they ported Tropical Freeze to the Switch, it sold double what it sold on the Wii U. It only sold 4 million, but hey, it sold. Like, at least it sold 4 million. So that's just how bad the Wii U era was. But also, like, the sales do tell you that it's just like, hey, the fan base, like, is gonna be more inclined to play Mario. And also, Donkey Kong just doesn't have enough to offer. And Nintendo's really not propping up Donkey Kong as well in certain ways. Like, yeah, Donkey Kong shows up in, you know, Super Smash Brothers and Mario Party. So, like, Donkey Kong's, like, in the circle. But definitely there could be a lot more touch and flair to Donkey Kong. And it just feels like Nintendo's not sitting down and really thinking of innovating Donkey Kong. They definitely could. Nintendo always has, like, these wacky, crazy ideas with IPs and stuff like that. So they definitely could give Donkey Kong some love, but again, because Donkey Kong isn't selling so well, their thought process logistically is probably, hey, Donkey Kong's not selling so well, and instead of, you know, coming up with like a wacky idea that might be amazing, why don't we just use that amazing idea for Mario and slap Mario on it, because we're just going to make more money from that in the long run. And then a side note just to mention that, like, you know, it probably wasn't going to be a future thing anyways. They were probably just making it just to make it. But you can also, like, look at Diddy Kong Racing, and it's just like, well, Mario Kart's way more popular than Diddy Kong Racing. Why would we make Diddy Kong Racing? Just give it to Mario and just put the Kongs in Mario Kart. So, like, it's just, again, just like another thing. It's just like, why do that when Mario's a popular thing? Slap Mario on it. I think today, though, Diddy Kong Racing would sell really well, but it definitely would not sell as good as a Mario Kart. Like, if they're like, oh, we made Diddy Kong Racing 2 with some cool mechanics, it would sell. But those mechanics would be better in a Mario Kart 9. Like, let's be real about that. So, if we, I desperately want Donkey Kong. Like, we desperately need more Donkey Kong. And there's still a fan base for Donkey Kong. People still love Donkey Kong. There's still love for him out there. Like, honestly, like, he was amazing. Like, what they did for his character in the Mario movie was fantastic. And I'm sure that, like, that probably got people to, like, be like, oh, Donkey Kong, yeah, look at Donkey Kong. And, like, they played the DK rap. And, you know, the only good thing that N64 Donkey Kong gave us was the DK rap. So, like, they played the DK rap, and it's just like, you know, the DK rap has been, like, memed. It's, like, been trending on TikTok sometimes. It's been remixed to the not funny, didn't laugh. So, Donkey Kong has, like, some, like, it has a pretty decent notoriety, and it has a very, like, strong fan base. And it just feels like Donkey Kong needs to just be fleshed out more, honestly. And, you know, Donkey Kong's had such little in the way of games. Like, there's very few games, so they could just rehash one of the older Donkey Kong stories. Like, if they're willing to do it with Mario, where it's just like, oh, the Peach has been captured, like for the 1,000th time this time, ooh, yay. They can do it with Donkey Kong. K. Rool comes back, steals his bananas, go fight K. Rool. They did that for the Donkey Kong Country series, and they did that with Donkey Kong 64, where it's just like, oh, hey, K. Rool stole your family. So they could honestly just rehash some of those things, and I think Donkey Kong desperately needs a 3D environment. I think we need another 3D Donkey Kong to add a breath of fresh air, and it could be just a very nice platformer with, you know, some dense combat, because we're probably not going to get Wario Land back or whatever. So it could be a 3D environment, because Kong Island has a lot of terrain, and we have snow. Like if you look at the first Donkey Kong Country game, like the terrain in that game is so nice and good. You have your snow levels, your jungle levels, there was the mining levels. Like there's different areas for DK to explore. So you could definitely do that in a 3D environment with like, explorables, like, add like the bananas or something. And again, you could rehash one of Donkey Kong's old stories, be like, oh, King K. Rool kidnapped your family again, go find them. And it's just like when you find them, you unlock them as playable characters with different things. Or it's just like, hey, Donkey Kong, K. Rool stole all your bananas. Or like maybe Donkey Kong has finally like industrialized his island and K. Rool came in and destroyed all his banana farms and put like enemies there. So you gotta go fight, the weird ghost sword again, or the giant ostrich thing, or the giant beaver, just stuff like that. You gotta go fight those bosses again. And maybe, Diddy Kong has some tools for Donkey Kong to use, so they give him that, and then Donkey Kong has like a couple unique tools. Maybe it's similar to like the badge system in Mario Wonder, so you run around with these cool new tools as Donkey Kong. Maybe add motion controls as well, as an option where, just to like kind of get people into the flow of the game. Maybe you pull out the Joy-Con, you kind of swing it around like how Donkey Kong swings his arm and charge up his neutral B in Smash Brothers, something like that. Or, like maybe, a mad scientist brings back K. Rool, like how all these weird sorcerers bring back Ganon and Zelda, and the scientist like cyberizes all of the enemies. So just any type of story like that. Donkey Kong explores the island. He has like some new gadgets that lets him traverse the island, and maybe make it kind of like how Mario 64 was, where it's just like you go through different sections of the island, like you traverse into like a hub world to a degree by chance, something like that. And you just go through these levels, these different 3D levels, and can explore and, get the bananas or the collectibles or whatever. Or if they don't even want to go the K. Rool route, they literally can add in the evil Kongs from Donkey Kong Jungle Beat. They've only appeared for that time. They can do that again. Be like, oh, the evil Kongs are trying to take over Kong Island. You got to go through the different areas of Kong Island and beat them up. So they can do something like that. Add the other Kongs to the game to make people, play as the other Kongs. And, oh, you can use Diddy for this level. Or, maybe you go through this 3D level and, you play it first through DK, but you notice, hey, Dixie Kong can get up to that part. I got to come back so I can get the collectibles. Stuff like that, but, if they still wanted to keep DK in the 2D space, they could still, use something like that. Maybe give it something similar to Pizza Tower or like Wario Land or something, or even like something similar to Mario Land 2, where it's just really unique areas, and just send DK on like a wacky adventure. Because to be fair, they really haven't done anything wacky with DK. It's just been him on Kong Island, just hanging out in the jungle. Like, put him in a different environment, give him something new, like add something wacky, and maybe Nintendo can really start experimenting in the future where it's just like, oh, Mario defeated Bowser and now Kamek just showed up and Kamek just like changed the island to look really weird. Something like that. But, we need more Donkey Kong in the end. We desperately need more Donkey Kong, not just, a remake of Donkey Kong Country Returns, like something really nice and solidified. But those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I also, by this time when this video is up, there should be 4 other videos, so go watch those and subscribe. I'd really appreciate that, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.